The Borgia family, even centuries after their death, remain among the most infamous families in history. Those familiar with the Renaissance period, or with Assassin's Creed like me, will know the corruption of Rodrigo Borgia, also known as Pope Alexander VI, and his infamous children. This is the story of one of those children, Giovanni Borgia, a man whose violent and mysterious murder has gone unsolved centuries after he was killed. I'm the Lunar Librarian, and this is the story of Giovanni Borgia, the son of the infamous Pope Alexander VI, whose violent murder remains without any answers or clear suspects over 500 years after his death. Rodrigo Borgia, or Pope Alexander VI, remains one of the most infamous and controversial men to occupy the papal office. His corruption, personal decadence, and nepotism remain among the most overt examples of papal corruption, even to this day. Rodrigo Borgia, born on January 1st, 1431, in modern-day Spain, was the nephew of Pope Calixtus, who made him a cardinal in 1453. Rodrigo continued to serve in the Catholic Church under the following four popes, using his office as a cardinal to gain administrative experience, as well as significant wealth. When Pope Innocent VIII died, Rodrigo leveraged this wealth in order to win the papal election, effectively buying the papacy. In 1492, Rodrigo Borgia became Pope Alexander VI. Upon becoming pope, Alexander used the office to engage in overt nepotism and corruption, enriching himself and his children with the powers the papacy provided him. However, despite his corruption, he was also regarded as a positive figure by some of his successors, as well as priests at the time. Alexander was seen as a patron of the arts who restored the splendor and sophistication of the papal office. In particular, Pope Sixtus V and Urban VIII described him as one of the greatest popes to ever hold the title. However, whatever his merits as a pope, Alexander was undeniably corrupt, a trait which his children apparently learned from him. Giovanni Borgia was born sometime in the 1470s. Some sources place his birth in 1474, other sources in 1476. Either way, Giovanni was the son of Rodrigo and his mistress, Giovanna. Since Rodrigo was a cardinal at the time of Giovanni's birth, and was therefore unmarried and supposed to be celibate, Giovanni was considered an illegitimate child. Such status brought with it social stigma and rejection, but also professional restrictions. Illegitimate children were unable to hold church office, and therefore Rodrigo was unable to secure appointment within the Catholic Church for Giovanni or his brother Caesar. Giovanni, however, did not need clerical appointment. Instead, he inherited the Duchy of Gandia from his half-brother, Pedro Luis Borgia. The Duchy of Gandia was a new title when Giovanni inherited it in 1488, and included territory which had previously been held by the Orsini family, a Neapolitan noble family allied with the King of Naples. Although Giovanni was already a duke before his father was elected pope, he definitely used his relationship with the papal throne to enrich himself. Giovanni was legitimized by papal bull and then given a cardinalship. Later, in 1496, Giovanni was named commander of the papal armies. Command of the papal military was an extremely prestigious position, which conferred a great deal of respect and status on Giovanni. However, it also drew the envy of his brother Caesar, who wanted the title of commander for himself. Like his father and brother, Giovanni was far from an exemplary clergyman. While Giovanni was not as corrupt as the rest of his family, he was certainly more than willing to use his office in the church to enrich himself. Furthermore, Giovanni openly ignored the requirement of clerical celibacy and maintained his marriage to Maria de Luna even after his appointment as a cardinal. In addition to this marriage, Giovanni carried on numerous extramarital affairs with several upper-class Italian noblewomen. These faults made Giovanni a less than ideal cardinal. However, he was far less corrupt than his infamous siblings, Caesar and Lucrezia. In addition to being less corrupt, Giovanni was also less politically ambitious than his siblings. However, neither trait would save him from the chaos which surrounded his family. On June 14th, 1497, Giovanni Borgia attended a party his mother was hosting in his honor. In attendance was his mother, her husband Carlo Carnale, his sister Lucrezia, and his brothers Caesar and Geoffrey, as well as Geoffrey's wife, Sancha of Aragon. Here, Giovanni celebrated and drank heavily late into the night. Eventually, Giovanni and Caesar had enough and left the party together, accompanied by a few servants and assistants. Halfway through their ride, the two separated, riding towards their respective homes. The next morning, Giovanni's horse arrived home without him, and with a cut stirrup. His wife, assuming that he had simply gotten lost while drunk, dispatched a search party to find him. Later that day, the search party would indeed find Giovanni. However, it was clear he had not simply gotten lost. Giovanni was found dead in the Tiber River, with his throat cut and 9 stab wounds in his torso. Alongside Giovanni, his personal assistant was also found stabbed to death, leaving no witnesses to the attack. His father, Pope Alexander VI, was apparently devastated by the death of his son, and launched a full inquisitorial investigation into the murder. However, after only a week, Alexander called off the investigation completely. Although he was, according to those around him, distraught by the loss of his son, Alexander also made almost no effort to find his killer. As a result of this apparent apathy towards finding the murderer, as well as the lack of any witnesses or evidence regarding the attack, Giovanni Borgia's death was never solved. Indeed, to this day, more suspects remain than answers. The most obvious theory is that the Orsini family ordered Giovanni murdered. As mentioned earlier, the Orsinis used to rule the land which was now held by Giovanni Borgia, and they were particularly eager to reclaim it. Furthermore, the Orsini family was allied with the Neapolitan king Ferdinand II. Ferdinand was a rival of Pope Alexander, and this, combined with the territorial claims of Gandia, provided ample political motive for the Orsini family to murder Giovanni. However, there are other theories regarding the brutal killing. Giovanni's brother, Caesar, was notorious for his Machiavellian nature and willingness to do anything, including murder, to further his plans. Furthermore, Caesar was jealous of the social status and rank Giovanni had as the papal commander, and desired the position for himself. Caesar was not above using violence to achieve his objectives, and although he was infamous for using poison to dispatch his enemies, it is entirely possible Caesar either ordered the murder or killed his brother himself while the two were leaving the party. Giovanni's younger brother, Geoffrey, is also a suspect. Giovanni had numerous extramarital affairs throughout his life with various women. One of these women was Sancha of Aragon, Geoffrey's wife. While Geoffrey was apparently far less volatile than his siblings, it is possible that Geoffrey found out about the affair and hired an assassin to kill Giovanni. Interestingly, according to some reports of the night, a strange man wearing a mask was seen following Giovanni and Caesar as they left the party on the night of the murder. If this is true, it is likely that this masked man was indeed Giovanni's killer, and would suggest that it was indeed a hired killing. While it is unknown who killed Giovanni, or why, the silence of Pope Alexander seems to suggest that one of his brothers was involved in the murder. If Giovanni had been killed by the Orsinis, why would Alexander cover it up? Alexander apparently cared very much for his children, Giovanni included, and if his rivals had indeed murdered his son, it seems unlikely he would have dropped the case after just a week. Therefore, it is likely that Giovanni was murdered by one of his brothers, a murder which was, for some reason, covered up by Alexander. It remains unknown, however, if Giovanni was a victim of Caesar's political ambitions or Joffrey's jealousy. Giovanni Borgia's violent death is usually reduced to a chapter in the story of his much more famous relatives. While his family's legend has endured for centuries, Giovanni's life is usually only a small part of it. He was not as controversial as his father, nor as notorious as his brother Caesar. However, despite the fact that he is usually overshadowed by his more famous family members, Giovanni Borgia's murder remains a fascinating historical case of Renaissance murder and political intrigue. I've been the Lunar Librarian. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. I make historical true crime videos like this one every week, so if that sounds interesting to you, then stick around. Anyways, thank you, and goodbye.